The November evening cast long shadows across the financial district as the last of the office workers hurried toward the subway stations, their breath visible in the crisp autumn air. Among them, 34-year-old Rebecca Sterling walked with the determined stride of someone who had spent the day closing million-dollar deals and making decisions that affected hundreds of employees. As vice president of acquisitions at Sterling Financial, Rebecca commanded respect in boardrooms across the city. Her tailored gray coat and confident demeanor spoke of success earned through years of 16-hour days and sacrificed weekends. Tonight, like most nights, she was the last to leave the 40-story office building, her mind already planning tomorrow's strategies as she stepped into the elevator. On the building's maintenance level, 39-year-old David Morales was finishing his evening rounds. His janitorial uniform was clean but showed the wear of honest work, and his calloused hands spoke of someone who took pride in keeping things running smoothly behind the scenes. What most people didn't know was that David held a master's degree in electrical engineering, abandoned years ago when his wife died in a car accident and he became a single father to 8-year-old Sophia. The janitorial job provided steady hours that allowed him to be home when Sophia returned from school, health insurance that covered her asthma medication, and the flexibility to attend her school plays and parent-teacher conferences. It wasn't the career he had planned, but it was the life his daughter needed. As David made his final check of the building's electrical systems, something caught his attention that made his blood run cold. The main electrical panel on the 32nd floor showed readings that shouldn't be possible. The voltage fluctuations were severe and erratic, indicating a dangerous fault in the system that could cause a catastrophic failure at any moment. David's engineering background immediately told him what these readings meant. Somewhere in the building, electrical systems were on the verge of complete failure. In a building this size, with its complex network of elevators, lighting, and security systems, such a failure could trap people or worse. He grabbed his radio to call building security, but the device crackled with static. The electrical interference was already affecting communications. David looked at his watch, 6:45. Most of the building was empty now, but he had seen the light still on in Ms. Sterling's office on the 38th floor when he passed by 20 minutes ago. Without hesitation, David ran for the emergency stairwell. Meanwhile, Rebecca was gathering her things in her corner office, reviewing the final details of tomorrow's presentation to the board of directors. The acquisition she had been working on for 6 months was finally ready for approval, and success would likely mean the promotion to senior vice president she had been working toward her entire career. As she reached for her briefcase, the office lights flickered once, then twice. Rebecca paused, mildly annoyed by the interruption, then continued packing her materials. The building's electrical system had been acting up lately, but maintenance always seemed to have it under control. David reached the 38th floor, breathing hard from the climb but driven by urgency. He could hear the ominous humming of overloaded electrical systems behind the walls and the smell of ozone that indicated serious electrical problems. He burst through the stairwell door and ran toward the corner office where he had seen the light. "Ms. Sterling!" he called out, his voice echoing in the empty hallway. Rebecca looked up from her desk, startled to see the building's janitor standing in her doorway, clearly agitated and out of breath. "Mr. Morales, what are you doing up here?" she asked, her tone sharp with irritation. "I'm in the middle of something important." "Ms. Sterling, you need to come with me right now," David said urgently. "There's a dangerous electrical fault in the building. The main systems are about to fail." Rebecca stared at him with a mixture of confusion and annoyance. "What are you talking about?" "The lights are working fine. Ma'am, I'm a trained electrical engineer. The readings I'm seeing indicate an imminent system failure. We need to evacuate immediately." "You're a janitor," Rebecca said dismissively, turning back to her work. "I'm sure whatever you think you saw can wait until tomorrow. I have a presentation to finish." David felt frustration rise in his chest, but he kept his voice calm. "Miss Sterling, please. I know this sounds crazy, but I have a master's degree in electrical engineering from MIT. I took this job for personal reasons, but I know what I'm talking about. This building is in immediate danger." Rebecca looked at him with obvious skepticism. Look, I appreciate your concern, but I don't have time for this. Please just go back to your work. I'm not leaving without you, David said firmly. Then you're going to be here all night, Rebecca snapped. Don't follow me around like some kind of stalker. I'm perfectly safe. As if to contradict her words, the lights flickered again, more dramatically this time, and the building's air conditioning system made a loud, grinding noise before falling silent. David's eyes went wide as he recognized the signs of cascading system failure. Mrs. Sterling, please listen to me. In about 30 seconds, this building is going to lose all electrical power. The elevators will stop working, the emergency lighting will fail, and the security systems will shut down. If you're still here when that happens, you could be trapped for hours. That's ridiculous, Rebecca said. But her voice carried less conviction than before. Ms. Sterling, David said, his tone becoming more urgent, my daughter Sophia has asthma. I've spent years learning about building systems and air quality because her health depends on it. I know when electrical systems are about to fail because I've seen what happens when they do. Please trust me. Something in his voice, the genuine concern and the specific knowledge he was demonstrating, made Rebecca pause. She looked at this man she had barely noticed during their brief encounters in the building, really seeing him for the first time. You really are an engineer, she said quietly. Yes, ma'am. And right now, I'm an engineer who's telling you that we need to leave this building immediately. As if summoned by his words, the building's lights went out completely, plunging them into darkness. The hum of electrical systems that had been constant background noise disappeared, leaving an eerie silence broken only by the distant sound of emergency alarms beginning to wail. The emergency lighting should come on, Rebecca said, her voice tight with the first traces of real concern. Not if the main electrical panel has failed, David replied, pulling out a small flashlight from his maintenance kit, which is exactly what I was trying to tell you. In the beam of David's flashlight, Rebecca could see that he wasn't gloating or saying, I told you so. Instead, his face showed only concern and determination to get them both to safety. The elevators, Rebecca said, reality beginning to sink in, won't be working. We need to take the emergency stairs, and we need to go now before the backup systems fail too. David led the way through the darkened office, his flashlight beam dancing ahead of them as they made their way to the emergency stairwell. Behind them, Rebecca could hear ominous crackling sounds that seemed to be getting closer. Mr. Morales, she said as they began their descent, I owe you an apology. No, you don't, David replied, focusing on navigating the stairs safely. You had no reason to trust me. I'm just glad you're willing to listen now. But I should have listened earlier. I made assumptions about you based on your job, not your qualifications. They continued down the stairs in relative silence, the sound of their footsteps echoing in the emergency stairwell. By the time they reached the lobby, Rebecca could see fire trucks and emergency vehicles pulling up outside the building. As they emerged onto the sidewalk, a fire captain approached them immediately. Anyone else in the building? He asked. No, David replied. I did a complete check before the systems failed. Ms. Sterling here was the last person inside. The fire captain looked at David with recognition. You're the one who called this in? Yes, sir. I noticed the electrical readings were showing dangerous fluctuations and tried to get everyone out. Good catch. We've got reports of electrical fire starting on multiple floors. If anyone had been trapped in the elevators when the system failed. He didn't need to finish the sentence. Rebecca felt a chill that had nothing to do with the November air. Over the next 2 hours, as fire crews worked to contain the electrical fires that had indeed broken out on several floors, Rebecca and David waited together on the sidewalk. For the first time, Rebecca found herself really talking to the man who had potentially saved her life. MIT Electrical Engineering, she said, shaking her head. And you're working as a janitor. My wife died in a car accident when Sophia was 3, David explained quietly. She was coming home from work late one night just like you were tonight. After that, I realized that no job was worth missing time with my daughter or risking her growing up without a parent. So you gave up engineering? I gave up the kind of engineering job that required me to travel constantly and work weekends. But I never stopped being an engineer. I just found a different way to use those skills. Rebecca was quiet for a moment, processing this. Your daughter is lucky to have you. I'm lucky to have her. She's taught me that success isn't about the title on your business card or the size of your salary. It's about being present for the people who matter most. As the fire crews finally declared the building safe and the emergency vehicles began to disperse, Rebecca realized that everything she thought she knew about success had been challenged in the span of a few hours. Mr. Morales, she said as they prepared to part ways, I'd like to ask you something. What's that? How would you feel about consulting for our company? We're always dealing with building acquisitions, property assessments, infrastructure evaluations. Your engineering background combined with your practical experience could be invaluable. David looked surprised. You want to hire me as a consultant? I want to hire you as an expert. You could set your own hours, work around Sophia's schedule, and use your engineering skills in a way that actually matters. What do you think? 6 months later, David Morales walked into the Sterling Financial Building wearing a visitor's badge that read, D. Morales, PI, Infrastructure Consultant. He carried a briefcase containing reports on 3 major property acquisitions, each one strengthened by his detailed technical analysis. Sophia, now 9 years old and with her asthma well controlled, was proud to tell her classmates that her daddy was helping important companies make smart decisions about buildings and safety systems. And Rebecca, recently promoted to senior vice president, had learned something more valuable than any business degree could teach. That wisdom and expertise can be found in the most unexpected places, and that the people we overlook might be exactly the ones we need most. The building's electrical system had been completely renovated, with David overseeing the project to ensure it met not just minimum safety standards but optimal performance specifications. Every time Rebecca walked through those hallways, she remembered the night when a janitor with an MIT degree had saved her life by refusing to let her dismiss his expertise. David still kept some of his maintenance certifications current, not because he needed them for work anymore, but because he had learned that taking care of the fundamental systems that keep people safe was one of the highest forms of service he could provide. And every evening when he picked Sophia up from her after-school program, right on time, he was reminded that the most important engineering project of his life wasn't a building or a bridge or an electrical system. It was building a life where being a good father was perfectly compatible with being a successful professional. Sometimes the most crucial warnings come from the people we least expect to have the answers. Sometimes expertise wears work clothes and carries a flashlight instead of wearing a suit and carrying a briefcase. And sometimes the moment that saves your life is also the moment that teaches you what life is really worth living for. If this story reminded you to listen to wisdom, wherever you find it, and to never underestimate someone based on their job title, please give it a like and share it with someone who might need this message. Subscribe for more stories about hidden expertise and the unexpected ways that people can change our lives. And please comment below about a time when someone you underestimated turned out to have exactly the knowledge or skills you needed. Your story might help someone else recognize the value of looking beyond appearances.